Okay, it seems that we are live. Shalini, I will
Yeah,
just do a
hi.
double check. I will just do a double check on Facebook to see that it reflects on Facebook because today has been quite a day for, um, tech glitches. Oh, yes, we are live. Shalini, can you see? I will just do a double
Yes,
check.
I
Yes.
can see. I can see.
All
It's
right. So we
live.
are live on Facebook. And I
Excellent.
hope I hope that everybody who is on Facebook will suddenly see us on Facebook and join. So yeah, so I've muted it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take ahead our unscripted conversation any which way. Um, I feel this is a great way for us to become flexible, as
Right.
individuals ourselves.
Adaptable.
Yeah,
Adaptable
adaptable.
to the
Yeah,
moment. Yeah.
because there are so many things happening all across the planet. We have tech just going haywire. We have sudden blackouts that is happening out of the blue in in different countries, and I feel that there might come a time where we all go back to candles and firelight.
And cave living.
Yeah, correct. I mean, that's how our ancestors and our, great grandparents also lived, right? Uh, you know, since today's topic is about unfiltered conversations, I remember in my grandmom's house, there was always this outdoor place where they heated up bathing water with wood fire, you know, and it
Okay.
was, yeah, and it was so strange for me, after coming back from abroad to see that big, huge, vessel, in our village home, having, a wood fire. Wood fire would mean, twigs and leaves and stuff like that, because we had
Right.
massive courtyards, right? Full of fruit trees and coconut trees and stuff like that. And that whole thing boiling or heating up bathing water.
Wow.
Yeah,
E-
and then everyone
even
just go.
even now, in certain parts where we have the camping, the young students go camping. Then they have
Yeah,
this bonfire lit and big vessels, and early morning heating of water.
correct.
Yeah.
And I find that like today, even when I smell leaves burning, it just automatically, it's that memory that gets triggered. It takes me right back to the time of all of us, like in our as kids in our undies, right? Taking
Yes,
water
the
from there and
Mowgli's,
pouring
the
down,
Mowgli's that we were.
Oh my God, completely, complete Mowgli scene, yeah, from a Jungle Book. Oh my gosh. I don't think kids today would kind of, would say, what the hell, how did you even do these things? And it's so, eek and things that way. Hello, that was
Yeah,
part of our childhood.
yeah.
Yeah. How are you feeling today, Shalini?
Awesome. I mean, I'm looking forward to, you know, this thing just roll on, and with the punches, the weirdest things to talk about.
Correct, that's right.
That's
So
right inside of us.
our conversation today is unfiltered confessions, and I feel that sometimes in our in our very structured work lives, right? We don't get the opportunity to kind of maybe just talk things that are close to our heart or part of some sort of nostalgic or some sort of memory kind of default that
Yeah.
yeah and yeah, I think this would be so interesting. So we're just going to hop in, and we hope that our friends and followers find us somehow on Facebook, because they won't find us on Instagram today. So you know Facebook is also a very active format in that sense, right? So good to jump in.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Ready.
Um, all right. So Shalini, because this is unfiltered confessions, I want to know from you, which is, did you ever think babies came out of the belly button, or worse, the mouth? You remember as kids?
No, no, no. Perhaps weirder that when we used to see movies on Doordarshan during those times, like maybe 40 years ago, 30 years ago, and it was like, they go behind the trees, and what happens, and
Yeah.
suddenly they are in the hospital with the baby. So it's like, okay, yeah, that actually kind of made the imagination raw as well as imaginative. And
Yes.
and those flowers, two kissing flowers and things like that, so those
Yeah.
images, yeah.
Trees shaking or flowers kind of, like sunflowers and roses. Yeah.
Right.
I remember that because my mom used to be a huge movie buff, and I think that is where I get it also. So she would take us for most of the movies that she wanted to go, and then all the four of us would be dragged along with her. Also because we did not have babysitters, that concept at that time, right? Or help at home. My mom was I mean, she did everything by herself, right from taking care of us to all the household chores. So whenever she wanted to go for a movie, that is what she did. She just tagged the four of us together. Yeah. And I remember I used to sit down next to her, in the movie theater, and I would have so many questions. Oh my God, Shalini. She used to get so bugged with me, kind of
so
tell me,
just,
keep quiet.
so
Like,
just
what?
share just
Yeah,
share those wild questions that you had as a child.
yeah. And why this happened like this? And why did she do like this? And why he did like this? And why are they crying now? Now what happened? That kind of thing. And she would like get so annoyed with me saying, like, just keep quiet, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's how parents used to just quieten us.
Correct. So I understand this, that, babies came from a belly button because you had no clue, right? Nobody, nobody,
Absolutely,
nobody had the conversation.
absolutely, yeah, yeah. And
I, do-
and if in hushed tones they would talk, okay, somebody is pregnant, so that would be in very very hushed tones, like it was like something that was not to be disclosed, and
yeah,
only the baby had to come out, then only it was to be disclosed. So, and it was like some kind of bad luck or something also that was believed, with
correct,
with
correct.
that.
Yeah, but it's strange, right? Like I say, nobody had the conversation of the birds and the bees with us.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, we just found it on our
we
own.
just
Yeah, or we were told such blatant lies about a whole lot of stuff, and I don't know, maybe found it the wrong way or the hard way through ill-informed friends as well.
yeah,
No, you know,
yeah, but that added to the fun, I think.
I don't know whether added to the fun or added to trouble.
Uh, no, I mean, there was no experimentation really. I mean, in that sense, honestly, like, I mean, you'll find my story to be truly, uh, boring in a way. I just got married and this thing, and, and it's just like, I mean, I didn't have any flings, I didn't have any, so to say, crushes to
Oh my
admit
God,
to.
really?
It's like, really, I mean, I very very straight jacketed person, and I find
Okay.
that very funny now in this stage in my life.
Yes, I think it made us extremely curious because we came, as I said, right? We were born and raised abroad. There's already such a global influence to things that are happening around, magazines, books. Because we were very liberal that way. There were all kinds of movie magazines at home because my mom was a voracious reader herself, and we also then grew up to consume so much of television, and
Yeah.
newspapers and glamour magazines. Correct. So yeah, I had a whole lot of questions. Oh my God, I don't think my mom could handle that, and there were no answers because there were all these sugar coated stuff, right? Like Santa Claus and those kind of things. So
Tooth
yeah,
fairies, tooth
yeah,
fairies.
the tooth fairies, of course, happened with the tooth under the pillow, and and then sending money, under the pillow as well. So yeah, so I found out I think yeah, the troubled way, a lot of things because I was extremely curious. I'm still extremely curious myself. So ill-informed friends telling you, giving you ill-informed information too, you know, uh, and stuff like that. Yeah. So luckily we didn't get into too much of major trouble.
Good for you. as,
Yeah.
as
In that
teenagers
sense,
say nowadays.
yeah. I think this generation is completely different. Yeah, they the bird and the bees just would not make sense because they already know more than we knew that when we were 10 years old, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that true?
yeah,
The information explosion is like
correct. Right.
beyond.
So yeah, so going from this entire, load of questions that we have, what was the dumbest lie an adult told you, and did you 100% believe in it?
Ah. Oh my. That that you you're great all the time. You're kind of awesome in everything you do. So something like that on those lines. And it's like we're not great all the time. Really, we're not great all the time. We are we are messy. We are, you know, crazy. We are loud. We just not awesome all the time. So it's like, okay, I mean,
We're
it is
also
something to.
toxic. Yeah, I think the unaware would be also very toxic, because unaware adults would also give you information which is half baked, half cooked, in that sense.
Yeah, that's
Correct?
right.
Yeah,
Right.
and then you suddenly kind of realize when you grow much more into years, and say, oh my God, that was completely humbug in that sense. Yeah, like I remember uh, the whole Santa Claus story, which of course is so cute, and I still believe in Santa Claus, in that sense. I remember when there was thunder and lightning, my mom told us that God was playing football, and that
Yeah.
the thunder and lightning was goal. It's goal. Oh my
And
gosh! I
gold at the end of the rainbow, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, of course, through those stories, Winnie the Pooh stories and stuff like that.
yeah. In a way, I think that kind of also keeps. I believe that I'm not so much of a hardcore, cynic or realist.
Yeah,
I oscillate between.
it's yes. We need to oxidate because that flexibility is very important to live with some hope, with some brightness and spark in our eyes. That those beliefs, some beliefs are really like no, you hold on to them because somewhere they light up hope in our heart.
Yes, yeah, and I think that's also kind of required to kind of add an element of
Yes,
imagination. No, yeah,
to include some amount of cynicism from this world,
correct.
to help children imagine well, to brighten the imagination. So yeah, these things were necessary.
Yeah, correct. So, Shalini, how many half truths were told to you as a child? Come on, I'm sure there were many.
Okay, you go, then I get the cues. I mean, I'm still thinking, so just shoot.
Yeah, like the time, like I said, the thunder and lightning was goals, correct? That
Yeah.
God kicked a goal. If you told a lie, you would get black spots on your tongue, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Or
And
you
then
know,
this one thing that my grandma used to tell. My mother was quite of a skeptic, and more. She was a teacher, so quite a skeptic that way. Didn't have any superstitions or beliefs like that of the fairy tale world. But my grandma used to say that if you drink water over a watermelon, it
uh-huh.
will twist your mouth to one side.
Oh yeah, yeah. Plenty of
Yeah,
those, right?
yeah.
Plenty of those. If you swallow the seed, it would grow into a tree in your stomach.
Tree in your stomach. And then we would actually think that in the morning when we wake up, we'll
Yes.
we'll find something, growing and making that noise in our stomachs.
Yeah, I must also share this because sometimes I feel I was so naive when I was having my elder daughter. I remember because I love apricots and peaches. I remember eating one, and then by mistake I swallowed the seed, and I got so upset. I said, "Now, is it going to? Is my baby going to choke on it? Stuff like that." Oh God, yeah. I remember calling my mom to ask her if everything's going to be fine. I'm going to, I you know. Am I going to be okay? Is my baby going to be okay? Should I call the doctor? And my mom on the other line of the phone, just having a good laugh, saying, "Oh my God, you're okay. Nothing's gonna happen." So,
And now that you talked about the baby, being affected, I'm remembering this very weird thing that when you eat papaya in pregnancy, and the baby will come out sooner, something
yes,
like that.
yeah, correct. And I think it's you apply the same kind of misinformed misinformation, right, to
Yeah,
our lives also, right? As young women growing up, and then maybe perhaps as I said, ill-informed friends, lack of information at that time, correct? There was no
yeah,
internet.
that's true.
Yeah, and then you ended up kind of making uh, ill-informed decisions as well because my friend said so.
Said so, yeah, and influences did work until we are kind of in a space where, okay, we have our own belief system and stuff like that. But earlier it used to be like it used to move our world.
Yes, correct. And then I know that a lot of people, at least in my peer group, right, made a lot of mistakes too in life, Shalini, and wrong decisions as well, because
Right,
the best friend said or the best friend did, correct. Also, I
right,
guess also this whole kind of thing that because my mom married early in life, or my grandmom married when she was 80, 20 years old, it also means that I also should get married, those kind of things.
yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Yeah,
because yeah, that story gets somehow in our subconscious, and it kind of directs who we are in the moment, and how it's shaping our beliefs. Yeah, that's true.
correct. And then you end up making, as I said, half-baked decisions. And then suddenly when you're 30, 35, and you've had like, a brood of children, women are
Right,
saying, what the hell happened, right? Uh,
right,
my life is over. I've not even had an opportunity to realize myself in any which way.
right.
And
That's
then, of course, and then that
really
leads, yeah, that leads to a whole lot of stuff. So, yeah, so I always keep saying, and telling whoever that is open to listening, said, please don't go by these, my mom did so and so, my grandmom did so and so, my grandfather did so and to apply that it's relevant to you in this timeline. It's not.
right,
Yeah.
right. It has
Uh,
to, the evolution has to be visible, and yes.
Correct. So as a coach yourself, how do you think that information like this can be applied in today's context? If you have any kind of inputs to it, I mean, what does it happen from home? Does it happen from the community? And how would you set about doing it?
So I think the best way is to take care of the evolution, uh, in the sense that we hold on to those beautiful memories because they come from people we hold dear. So in that sense, they are very special. They will not leave us at any point in our living existence. So it is best to make peace and just let them stay as just memories, as just pieces of imagination, as just nostalgia, rather than being rather than tying our existence to those beliefs, rather than taking and testing them against the yardstick of truth. Is it true? How true it is? So
Mm-hmm.
the best way to see is whether it holds any value as truth. If it is not true, just hold on to it as a beautiful memory, as a piece of nostalgia, which can help you in writing a story, getting creative in your artwork, but beyond that, not to apply it in your living.
Yeah, but I don't know, Shalini, how much of that holds truth today, because kids will always want to experiment, and they are experimenting, correct, and they are exploring on their own, whether the parent knows it or does not know, because there's information, a boom of information everywhere, and kids are also influenced by their own peers, whether we like it or not. They're
Right,
influenced by social media, whether we like it or not, correct? And
right,
I feel that in a very volatile environment, right, of the digital space that we are in, um, uh, as a parent, but then I might, mine are already the ones who've flown the nest, correct, in that sense. The
I think
challenge, yeah,
mine too. One of them has flown the nest. Mine too. So yeah.
yeah, the challenge is
Uh,
always to kind of understand uh, how much of influence an adult can assert, right, on the bloomers at home, if you know what I'm saying.
yes.
Yeah, and then see, but how do we apply it to a larger context? Because I feel it is like a loose cannon everywhere. Where
You're
is
right.
where is the control mechanism anymore? No.
Right. That you have aptly pointed out to a glaring concern. And see, since I have teenage daughters and one has gone to the university, I would like to say that we, as parents, not so much direct,
Hmm.
direct kind of instructive, so to say, knowledge, not instructive knowledge, do this, do that, but it is more like how
Suggest.
safe you feel. It is
Hmm.
more directing towards how safe you feel in a certain circumstance. So your safety is paramount, your well being is paramount. In those parameters, through those parameters, we help them imbibe that something that doesn't look safe on the face of it, something that feels, the vibe is, gives you that vibe that it is dangerous, you are in a dangerous situation, and
Hmm.
how to kind of quickly exit that, and how to have the wits about you. So it's more about teaching to be safe, to feel what is safety and what is a kind of forced or trusted influence, impact, and in that situation, than what you call just a kind of a consensual thing, or kind of thing that you feel safe with, a person you feel safe with.
Do you also think that the lines between urban living and rural living have absolutely blurred now, right?
Yes, because
Yeah,
of the digital connect.
correct.
So that
Because
digital divide is no longer there between
hmm,
the rural and the urban, and I think, and it's leading to more of the, the kind of messy situations there, because of the sudden exposure in these
hmm,
past few years.
hmm,
For people, there's certain sections for which the exposure is deadly. Like you get onto the social media, and then you're suddenly exposed to things which you've not seen your entire childhood or entire teenage years, and you know you come into it, and it's like a whiplash, and you
correct.
tend to act upon it soon enough.
Correct. I think especially in terms of lifestyle choices, fashion, beauty, relationships. Correct.
Right.
Yeah, because I think the influence of the West has been so strong on Eastern and kind of Eastern cultures, especially, right? Uh,
Yes.
kind of thing that, oh,
especially the rural urban scapes,
right.
because rural was disconnected for a very long time and was not exposed to all this. But now it's like, okay, you have connectivity, you can see everything, and that's how it's leading to more mayhem, in that sense, in that scene.
So how does one bridge that gap in terms of communication, in terms of education, especially Shalini, when you look in at the context, say for example, India, right? Because that is familiar territory for us, no?
Right.
How does what you feel are the mechanisms required to bridge that overexposure of information with actually kind of truth or reality on ground.
Okay. So, taking that into consideration, exposure per se is not really the culprit.
Mm.
People see all kinds of stuff. It's our our society needs to open up more towards discussing this, in the physical space. So there is something happening in the online space, and there is vast difference between their home reality and the
Mm.
digital space, obviously. So
Mm.
that kind of thing, that kind of difference needs to be talked to the young people early on,
Right.
both through
Right.
schools, colleges, university. That awareness needs to be created, that what happens in the real physical spaces, what you are seeing and what is happening digitally, or how much you're seeing digitally,
Mm.
may not apply to your life ever.
Correct. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there are only few fundamental truths which you will carry from your life as an adult.
Correct.
So, to be familiar with those fundamental truths, your stories that have been built up over the years through generations, you will carry part of that. What you see is good for entertainment, but
Mm.
may or may not apply. Now, that kind of screening in the physical and the digital world reality, if we talk about more often to young people, I think that would take care of a lot of, misunderstanding, misconception, and
Misinformation.
misinformation.
Yeah. Do you feel it happening in India at the school and college level? I don't think so.
It, uh, in the sense that it is happening, that the awareness part, or it's not happening. So
Yeah,
what?
because I remember as a journalist and being so vocal, right? Because
Right.
of all the school and outreach, college outreach programs I would do as well under my company platform. I realized that most of them didn't even have in-house counselors or therapists. Correct?
Yeah. So that is one big area, big gap, big hole that needs to be addressed, needs to be filled up. And I mean, there we need to get more creative around the ways to reach out.
Mm,
Maybe
mm,
just through social media, maybe just through social media to the younger generation, and they are always online. They are accessing content. So the best way to reach out, I mean, I reach out my daughter sometimes on Insta. They're not looking at my WhatsApp. So those are the kind of places we can reach out if they are not available in the physical spaces. And it's a long term plan, I would say, for schools and colleges to hire people in those spaces, like the counselors and dedicated people towards all this, to
correct.
help them understand the differences between the digital and the real world.
As a professional yourself in the space, Shalini, would it how do you call it? Would you be moved, at a professional and a personal level to kind of maybe I don't know initiate like a momentum, in terms of putting the communication out there, how important it is for schools today to kind of to up level themselves on these kind of matters so that they can truly support um, uh, the lives, the mental health and mental lives of their students as well. Don't you agree?
Yes, absolutely. And taking into consideration again this, like we can look at adolescence, the
Mm,
recent series. The beautifully portrayed. The massive concern nowadays that how we kind of are so led by this digital life. We don't know, the lines blur so easily for
yes.
people, be it young, be it old. I mean, it's not like I'm focusing on one particular group. For any person, the lines get blurred so easily, and it's hard to be your own person, to know that what are the boundaries, and how we are how we should conduct ourselves
Yes,
in
correct.
the crisis,
Yeah.
who we should share with, like that cyberbullying, who we should share with. That's a very critical component of awareness,
Mm, mm.
how to make the generation aware of the bullying part and how
Yeah.
to handle it.
Yes, because from whatever that I'm seeing in the space, right, in the mental health space, I feel so a lot of that dedication is directed towards adults and not towards young people.
Right.
And I think, why wait for them to be messed up and then come to be to find, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
Why
get
not?
it.
Yeah, especially in today's timeline, yeah, because we have, there's a huge boom in single parents and single mothers, correct, choosing to have children by themselves, or on their own, or or marriages falling apart and stuff like that. I feel that whole demographic is getting bigger and bigger, and this is across. It's no longer a problem of the West, as we used to call it before.
Yeah, it's nothing to do with that. It's just like the way the evolution is happening because of the exposure, and people know more, people understand their rights more, and that whole thing is coming about, being expressed in different ways, I would say. Yeah.
Correct. So as a professional, then my question to you would be, would you feel that there is, a how do you call it, a gap that perhaps you could even step up to fill in, if you know what I'm saying, to specifically target this particular, demographic of young adults, uh,
Yes.
to kind of create a safe space conversation online. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because that is such a huge group now. Uh,
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, when they see that there is something, that there's an outreach and there's somebody to help them, I mean, they would be interested, definitely, and in
yeah,
improving, understanding the whole.
because in the age of social media, I mean, everything is possible, right? Why,
Yes.
why only kind of, why only be, kind of straight jacket yourself just to kind of, deal only with adult transformation, if you know what I'm saying.
No,
And
no, absolutely.
if
Any person's transformation, anybody who's willing to understand and move forward. Uh, so it's just that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember last month when I did this it was like a 3-day intensive. Social media creators were invited for this thing, and some 7-8 thousand of us, all across the planet, and they were all young. I realized, all in their like early 20s, trying to make their careers into content creation. And then I also realized, as they were all kind of talking and sharing, that so much of content creation, as we call it, is all directed towards, I don't know, the superficial, or where you're just, or how do you call it, um, not maybe in terms of community, you know
Yeah,
And
different sources, but scattered and
yeah,
not very.
because the community transformation, like for example, in the life coaching space, everybody who is in as a professional is a very senior adult, and they're all the ones who are talking to senior adults, correct? But then you find that in the young space of content creators, there's no one wanting to address that space for young people,
I
you know.
I'm always. I mean, I just feel wonderful about addressing young people. Like I've been a professor, and nothing gives me uh, a better thrill than being with young people. So yeah,
So that is your a demographic for you to target, Shalini.
yeah,
Yeah, and do something maybe,
very happy to address that if I can
on
help.
social media especially, right? Because
Yes,
they're all consuming content there. Why not? Yeah, I think in whichever space that we can create some sort of, the greater good, I call it, right?
yes,
Whether,
yes,
the,
absolutely.
yeah, whether money comes from it or not, the greater good also needs to be served, and the
Yeah,
universe takes,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely,
takes care.
absolutely. All for it. All for
Yeah,
it.
yeah, good, good. I'm glad. I'm glad
Yeah.
I could, put that conversation a little bit, because it kind of always bothers me, as young adults ourselves. Oh my gosh, I was so extremely curious, but I had no one to give me answers. And I always say that my my best friend in college was my psychology college lecturer. I think she kept me sane, because she, a psychology
Yeah.
teacher, she already had the tools, or at least knew the tools how to manage, uh, me, in that sense, Yeah, and oh my God, yeah. See, I'm getting feedback and comments already happening on Facebook. Awesome.
Oh,
And
lovely.
I think Shalini, in those very formative years of my life, from say, I think some 16 to by the time I finished up my bachelor's, I was like what, I think 19 or 20-ish, 19.
Yeah.
She kept me sane. She kept me sane because I had so many
Yeah, you
questions.
need you need that one person in your corner who will like, okay, who will, you know, boost
She
your ego as well as tamp you down at
she was
times.
she was safely in my corner. My God, and how I'm so grateful to her, because if she was not in my life, I think I would have really gone haywire. Because sometimes, when you have so much of angst, right? And
Yeah.
I'm a rebel.
When you're growing up, yes, yes,
Yeah,
we question, and then when we don't get answers, we just kind of are in a turmoil all the
yeah.
time,
You're
all the
questioning
time.
authority. You're questioning is the establishment. You're questioning your parents. You're questioning anybody and everybody. That
Anybody and everybody, yeah, that's right.
that's
Whoever
me.
we can
Yeah.
target, yeah.
And I think the writing saved my life and saved my sanity too, because as I said, right, I was
Same for me. Same for me, yeah.
my brain was in overdrive, and hormones were also matching that overdrive in that kind of sense, because when somebody tells you don't, you want to say why not, that kind of thing. And uh, and, and I realized that uh, kids who are like us, the ones who are always questioning establishment, authority, politics, that kind of thing, who don't just take things,
Things, yeah, at face value, yeah.
its
Yeah.
value, tend to kind of, if they're properly guided and mentored, they really become something in life, make something out of themselves, right?
Right. Yes.
In the leadership
That continuous that curiosity, I think, was a beautiful thing then. Even now they're very curious, different ways. I mean, generations are curious, but we had, because the sources were limited for
Yeah,
our information,
yeah.
so
So
we
I
were more curious that way
Yeah,
most of
no,
the time.
we were extremely curious,
Yeah,
extremely curious,
yeah.
getting different levels of curiosity in that kind of sense. Uh, Me being the elder child, oh my God.
Yeah, and that crown wearing that eldest child.
So by I don't know how I managed all those years, but I really credit my lecturer Nora, Miss Nora. Her name was. She really helped me to keep it together. In that kind of sense. And being a psychology lecturer, she used a lot of that on me as well. You know. Yeah, and when I
That's nice.
passed out of college, I remember I used to miss her terribly because then she became like my surrogate mom. Because she had all the answers, right? So I used to go to her. You know,
Yeah.
without my questions. I
Great.
Shalini, I have another quote online. Uh, Asmita, I think that's the right way of pronunciation. Asmita with an O. I don't know if the O is silent.
Oshmita. Oshmita.
Oshmita. Oshmita.
Yeah.
Oshmita Chakraborty.
Yes.
She,
Hi,
she has,
Oshmita.
yeah. Hi, Oshmita. Thank you for joining in.
Thank
And
you.
I'm going to read a comment. She says she's in the space of mental health, also.
Yes. I know
Um,
the lady. Yeah.
oh, you know her. Okay, great.
I
Okay. So
met
she
her.
says, as a young adult have always been a sensitive demographic to reach out to. For most of the time, the data says they are still confused about who they are and what they would like to be. So true. So true. I raised two daughters. I completely know this.
But
Okay.
again, sorry to interrupt, Ethel. When you said what they would like to be, that's the whole crux of the whole problem. That we are training them to become something. Actually, they need to be just themselves, the
Themselves.
most natural self. It's
Yeah.
hard in today's world,
Yes.
but that is the fundamental thing, to go back to very primal feelings about ourselves
Correct.
and not feel inhibited in that space. You feel like an artist, you feel like a painter, you write, you feel like a scientist, you go in that direction to pursue.
Yeah, no, no, continue. I'm just checking Facebook as well. Yes, I know what you're saying. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
So it's this whole thing has to be turned on its head to become. They don't have to actually become something. Yes, they will. When they excel at something, they will become, they will be somebody, you know
Correct. Yeah,
professionally they will be somebody, but not to really try and become somebody. That is different.
correct. In the sense that they are to be allowed to make their own decisions about
Yes,
who they want to be. Right?
who they are actually,
Actually,
naturally,
yes,
most naturally.
yes, correct. Yeah, but Shalini, having raised or like how Sadhguru also say, you don't raise people, that kind of thing. Sometimes too much information also, I think, creates a lot of confusion, for young teenagers and young adults
Yes,
as well,
yes, absolutely.
because because I think the whole influence, right, of the outside world is so glamorous, right? In terms of the materialistic, you know, goals that everyone says, oh, you should have this, you should have that, you should be traveling and stuff like that, that kind of thing. And I feel sometimes it can also create so much of pressure,
Yes.
unnecessary
The
pressure.
timelines, because the timelines, oh, by this age you do this, by this age, you should have that much money. So the timelines are very, very, tightening. It's like a noose around their tender necks, so to say. The
Yeah.
timeline. But to have this and that acquisition, it's more about acquisition rather
Mm,
than being. So that importance of being.
correct. So and I think that's the reason why professionals like yourself, Ushmita, I think that is where you ladies need to step in, to kind of, as I said, right, you have the greater good that you do with your skills and talent, and then you, of course, and then you also professionally do things for yourself, right? I always say, as professionals ourselves, you serve the cause of yourself, and then you also get to a point where you want to serve the cause of the greater the greater universe, right? And I feel that each if each of us thinks like this, right? I think there's so much greater good that can also happen from people who have the knowledge to share, and that's why empower. I'm so kind
Yeah,
of, yeah,
it's beautiful your whole approach, and through your company thing initiative, Empower initiative, you're doing in so many areas, and bringing people together.
correct. Because I'm deeply moved by it, Shalini. Because you're putting yourself into shoes that what would have happened to me if I, for example, didn't have Miss Nora to guide me during those such formative years, right?
Right.
Would she have been able to kind of how do you call it, somehow polish at the sharp edges? You know what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
know, chisel a little bit here and there.
Rounding the edges. But here I would like to say one thing, that there is really no need to round the edges.
Sure,
Huh?
sure. I'm
Yeah.
listening to
So
you.
it's like, okay, if we were really not to judge people, especially in their most tender stage of life, I think that would to I'm not saying that, as a parent I do that all the time, but I try to be aware, and I
Hmm.
try to do it as much as possible,
Correct. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
to not appear as if you are passing judgment. So it's like once you remove that barrier, I think the blossoming happens on its own, if a lot of judgment is removed on a daily basis.
Right.
And judgment and nagging overlap each other. So we do
Yes.
not know when it, and we are also healing from certain things. It's a fact.
Correct.
As parents, we are always facing something, some crisis or the other we have faced in life, and we are going to face. It's
Correct.
these are the truths of life. We are never quite going to get rid of the trauma condition,
Correct.
and we just manage it better. We just learn as we age. We just learn to manage it. So in that sense, we do transfer some of our useless, hopeless energy onto
Yes.
the kids,
Yeah.
but we try to minimize it. And I think in this space, as you said, when we are trying to help the young adults, we need to address the parental trauma more than so when they are foisting
Hmm.
unconsciously, subconsciously, checking kids too much or not letting them be, then it becomes something of a core issue there rather
Yeah.
than with the child. So many a times it's not the child is trying to cope. The child is trying to cope as best as possible with
Mm.
their, limited that thing resources that they have. But it's
Yeah.
the else they are facing day in and day out. There's judgment in the family. When I was growing up, there's a lot of judgment,
Yes.
in the family. You are skinny, you are this, you're that, who will marry you, literally that kind of stuff. So so
But see,
so
the whole
it's
focus only to get married, you see?
exactly only to get married. So those things you realize later how foolish, how silly, how ridiculous those ideas are to pass on to a teenager who is already struggling in school and college, and it
Correct.
just foist them. I remember I had my cousin, one of my cousins. She had some acne stuff, this thing, and she was struggling with that. And my one of my uncles used to comment on her,
Mm. Mm.
very ruthlessly.
Right.
And so what happened, she got married to somebody in desperation, literally in desperation.
Wow. Yeah.
It's an okay marriage, we do not say, but there was some, there was a lot of drama when she was getting married and stuff. So she couldn't find the courage in herself to choose her mate also,
Mm.
because
Mm.
that whole thing, it has
Yeah.
come from a important uncle who matters in the family, and then stuff like that.
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
So those things
All
hurt
landmines. All
hurt
landmines.
their self-esteem big time. So I
Yeah.
think there are people unconsciously just body shaming, and this is big. Body
Yeah.
shaming teenagers all the time, some uncle, some aunt, and they think it's funny, and it's not funny.
Hmm.
Some teenagers are very sensitive, and especially with the digital media influence, they do not like all this stuff happening to them, people
Correct.
commenting, and so it stays with them, and then they
Correct.
may take decisions about their partners in desperation
Yeah.
or
Or
something
even for themselves, right?
for themselves also. Yes.
Yeah, for themselves. Because I know, I mean, because because that's my field of work, right? Even in Bollywood, for example, because from the Indian context, right? You are so influenced by Bollywood, no? Your favorite hero, your favorite heroine,
Yeah.
and and then their messed up lives as well, that kind of thing. And then you realize that even the people behind the so-called silver screen or the golden screen, so many suicides that also kind of have happened in Bollywood too, because of this extra extreme pressure, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you put the whole young adult into that scenario, and to say, oh my god, what are we kind of really influencing them, in terms of role model playing, in that kind of thing.
Yeah.
To kind of know that, oh, my hero, is not such a hero in real life, stuff like that. Yeah, correct. Yeah. So yeah, Shalini, yeah, I think your work is cut out for you. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm really looking forward with a lot of zeal to make that difference if I can. Yes,
Yeah.
I do feel there is a need. Both
There's a
both both parents and that young adults section
Yeah,
needs to be.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I know it has. We jumped into a very serious conversation, just unfiltered confessions today, and I mean, that is how it is, right? All our, childhood. How do you call it? Uh, Instructions, examples,
Opening
conversation.
the portly, opening the
Yeah,
unlocking the
correct.
portly.
Correct. That kind of turns us either into urban legends in adults, or how would you say, or crooks of the biggest kind of, yeah, it shapes us, no, in
Yeah.
some way or other, no, in who we finally kind of take all the half truths and the half lies or the full lies and apply it to our day-to-day life.
But just as we said, we just roll on with the punches and we not take things so seriously, and we just kind of we
Yeah,
have come this far, we have come this far. And we will
correct.
make it in the second act, we will make it later on also. So
But that's a long time to get into the second act, in that sense, right? We got into our second act, we are still kind of, now finding solutions to our childhood problems.
no, but it's actually right when this thing, I mean, in fact, I'm going to write now on the little girl in me. So,
Yes,
that whole thing, series, I'm going to pen something on that, the little girl in me,
right.
and how does she feel now?
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
for everyone to resonate. So, what little girls go through, and even now, even the little girls, the big girls. So the big girl has to comfort the little girl all the time, and
yeah. And let's not also forget little young boys, Shalini.
yeah, no,
Uh,
all genders, not just young girls and boys, all genders,
yeah,
every gender.
because I have this very, very interesting and insightful conversations with a whole lot of women who are all single and successful, that kind of thing. So what happened to the men? They miss the bus, they miss the plane, they miss the ship. You know what I'm saying in that kind of sense. In terms of emotional intelligence, and leveling up to the how women have come so far, on their own, in terms of the
Because
life
they've
and
they've
stuff.
they've had to scramble up, they've had to do it somehow. So I mean, and they are alive and kicking. So you know.
I think
So
they took it
it's
for
they
granted.
have gone resourceful on their own,
Yeah,
uh,
I
with
feel the
with or
generation
without. So.
took it for granted that they were, that they were born privileged, correct, or somehow superior to the female, to the female gender, and we know this, to what we've seen, and therefore everything that they did or do would be accepted any which way because there was no other choice. Uh,
Right.
that conversation now has completely flipped on its
Yes,
heels, and now they
because
don't.
yeah,
Yeah,
because in our case, the evolution has
it is quantum.
taken, I mean, grown leaps.
It's a
Yeah,
quantum leap. Yeah, women have
it's
taken quantum
quantum.
leap.
Yeah,
Yeah, and very
catching
bold.
up. The catching up is not so much,
Yeah,
not so inspiring.
yeah, because you can see that that the catching up is has become slower on that part, and that is why we have women choosing to wanting to be single, women choosing to wanting to kind of perhaps raise children on their own.
in
Uh,
Japan, in Japan, there is a revolution. Women like this, self marriage. Women are marrying themselves,
yes,
on
yeah,
particular days, and they just
correct.
having fun. I think so. Of
Not,
course,
not not fun. I think living their own lives on their own
living
terms.
there, yeah, I mean, with purpose, with intention, and they find that they are not finding that kind of companionship, so to say. So
Of fulfillment as well, right? I also know women who are choosing, even if they are married, to be childless, to be without children, and they
yes,
think that yeah, we don't care, correct? We want it is our life, and we want to self-actualize ourselves, and that does
yes,
not include children. Having children in our life. So I'm like, yeah, great. So I understand that, as a very keen observer, and also the one who's broken so many rules myself, that the whole institution, of marriage would disintegrate. And the data is showing us that it's already leading to that space that increasingly women will choose and want to be single because they find men no longer compatible,
yeah. But
to
I'm fortunate to have married a wonderful person, and of course he's outnumbered in the family by estrogen. There's a lot of estrogen flowing. My girls, myself, so and our pet baby is also female, so it's like, okay,
yeah,
there's a whole lot, and he's very comfortable with feminine energy around, so that's
because
wonderful.
he's very emotionally intelligent, and that's why the whole
Yeah,
conversation
yeah,
around men, what that we are now saying that men need to step up in terms of emotional intelligence, and
yeah.
it's a global conversation now, Shalini, and that's why we keep telling we want great partners. I've been saying this for the longest time, who are emotionally intelligent. We're not
Intelligent.
looking at brawn, anymore, correct? That
Right.
yeah, we're looking at
EQ,
emotion.
the EQ part is the hero here. The
Yeah,
EQ part.
women have high IQ too.
Very high.
Women also, are emotionally intelligent. So the partnership now comes to that,
Comes
boil
to that.
right?
Yes.
It
Yes.
would boil down to stuff like that. Yeah, wow. I hope the male folk who watch this particular episode don't get too triggered by this because I keep telling them,
Trigger is good. Somewhere, I mean, some conversation will trigger something somewhere.
correct, yeah,
It's a nice thing. We've
yeah.
achieved our purpose.
Yeah. Unscripted is about, trigger alerts.
Trigger.
That
Trigger
happens. Yeah,
something in the atmosphere, yeah.
great.
Let
Uh,
loose.
Yeah, true. And I hope, that you and I, in our own professional spaces, can also kind of create, the greater good with our gifts, out there in the
Yeah.
world. And yeah, help and support those who want to be helped and support, because you can't, you know, things like these are all personal choices, right? Or wanting to become a better human being, and therefore I will seek professionals who can support personal development or mental development and stuff. Otherwise, um, how do you call it, you can have the greatest intentions,
Yeah.
it's not followed up by action. There's nothing much to.
Yeah, yeah. Action is like it is the
Action,
key.
action is
Absolutely,
everything. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. You can promise me the moon, but if
Yeah.
your action does not even show me that you can afford a flight ticket, excuse me. Thank you very much. See
On
you in
point. So on point. Yeah.
other lifetime kind of thing. That kind of stuff. Great, Shalini. I think we've already kind of hit the 60-minute target. You know, some way we have got some listener, audience on Facebook today by complete default. But yeah, because
Nice, nice. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending.
yeah, for being with us, for sharing some wonderful inputs also, and as I said, kindred spirits, like-hearted, individuals are more than welcome to join forces. With my platform as well. And tomorrow we're also doing something extremely interesting and intelligent. I feel because the feedback has been so
Yeah,
great.
I'll
Yeah,
be
and
coming
yeah,
over. Looking forward
yes,
to it.
yes,
All
some
the
good
best.
speakers and stuff. So looking forward to see you, Shalini, soon.
Yeah, yeah.
And huge thank you for making time and this whole flip from Instagram to Facebook today that has happened because
Yeah.
glitches that are happening. And great power to you as well to
Thank you to you too.
what you do. And see you on the other side soon.
Yeah. Take care.
All
Sure.
right, great.
Good.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone on Facebook.
Bye,
Please watch,
everyone.
share, and
Thank you
great
so much.
love back.